Alright, that was that Sharon taking us out. Welcome back. It's been a while since you've been here. This must be, if you're here for some more exciting maths. I'm Harat and let's attack some maths. Alright, first question. Let's get it going. Question 1. A linear relationship described by dividing 5 by x. Value is. First thing we need to know. Either of them, where it's y divide 5 or 5 divide y, we're finding x, they're automatically out. They can't be it, because we're dividing 5 by x. So it's got to say y equals. Next one. We've got, let's look at D. We've got x divided by 5. And then A is 5 divided by x. So here we're dividing 5 by x. Here we're dividing x by 5. So our answer here has to be A. Next one. So question 2, we've given this pattern. Use the diagram above to complete the table of values. First thing we need to know that these terms here is represented by each of these. So this is one term, that's your second term, third term, fourth term. We know in the first term there are 4 circles. In the second term there are 4, 5, 6, 7 circles. In your third term, we've got 7 plus 3, that's another 10. And by now you should see a pattern of plus 3 happening. Which means that we're going to add 3 along. We should get 13, 16, and 19. Alright, by this point, we've done that. And then I've got A and B and C here. To work out B and C, you need to work out A. You need to know what the equation for the table is. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, firstly, if each of these have a plus 3, then we know that for this equation, knowing that it is linear, this is where I get my book involved, we know that the general form for a linear line is y equals mx plus c. We know that m is the gradient, and we know c is the y-intercept. Alright, so first of all, we know if there's a plus 3 between each of these, that means our m value is going to be 3. So we have 3x plus c, and that's equal to y. We're kind of there, but not there yet, because we need to work our y-intercept. To get our y-intercept, we're going to substitute values for x and y. Now we can use any of these x and y coordinates. So top line's x, bottom line is y. We can substitute those xy values into our formula. To make it easy, I'm going to use 1 and 4. So x is going to be 1, y is going to be 4. So here, if we made that substitution, 4 is going to equal 3 times 1 plus c. Go through that and simplify that, and you have 4 equals 3 plus c. To get c by itself, I'm going to take this positive 3 and I'm going to move it over. So a positive going over becomes negative. That leaves c by itself. 4 take 3 is 1, c equals 1. Therefore, 3 dots, therefore, y equals 3 times x plus c is now 1. The equation of the line is 3x plus 1. Now we're going to use that to find part B. Part B is how many circles are there when 200 squares are present in the pattern. How many circles is our y variable, so we're going to try to find y when x equals 200. So again, I would write my equation out, 3x plus 1, and then I would substitute 200 for x, as so. Remembering between 3 and x there is a multiplier, so we're going to do 3 times 200, which is 600, plus 1 is 601, so there is 601 circles. Part C, how many squares are there when 22 circles are in the pattern? Alright, 22 circles. Again, I'm going to write my equation, 3x plus 1. Sorry, 22 circles is y, so now we're given the y value, let's substitute that, and that's going to be equal to 3x plus 1. So now we're going to work backwards to find x. When working backwards, we need to ask ourselves, what's furthest away from our variable? Is it 3 or the plus 1? Obviously it's plus 1, so we're going to move plus 1 away. A positive goes over, we're going to get a negative. Very important you put 22 at the front because it was already there. That's going to equal to 3x, that's going to equal to 21. To get x by itself, well, like before, we set up here, there is a multiply between these two. So we're going to take multiplied by 3 and we're going to take it over. That leaves x by itself here. 21 is already over the equal sign. Multiplied by 3 goes over. Opposite of multiplied is divide. Number I'm taking over is 3. X equals 7. So when y equals 22, x equals 7, and that's that question done. Alright, for question 3, we have to solve the linear equations showing full working out. There are 5 questions. I'm just going to do question 1 and question 3. Question 1 is a one-step equation, question 3 is a two-step equation, and if I do that, you should be able to do the others. Alright, question 1 in part 1 in question 3. X plus 7 equals 12. Well, to get x by itself, we gotta move whatever's left, which is here, the positive 7. If that's too tricky for you, one thing you can do with these is cover up x. If you cover up x, what's left on the left hand side? Positive 7. So that is what we've got to move over. Moving that over leaves us with x by itself. We've got 12 on the right hand side. Positive 7 goes over, becomes its opposite, negative 7. 12 takes 7 is 5. And said I was going to do question 3, so negative 4x take 9 equals 3. Again, two-step, work out what's furthest away from x. Negative 4 and x, well, there's a multiplier there. And then 9. Negative 9 is furthest away from x, so we're going to move that over first. That leaves negative 4x by itself. 3 is over the equal sign. When negative 9 goes over, it becomes positive 9, which means negative 4x is equal to 12. like we said before, there is a multiply between those two. So we're going to take multiply by -4 and we're going to take it over. That leaves x by itself. 12 is already over the equal sign. Opposite of multiplied is divide. The number we're taking over is -4. That equals positive and a negative. Divided together is negative. 12 divided 4 is 3. So the answer is -3. Alright, question 4. The relationship shown in the table of values below is graphed on the following Cartesian plane. So here it is. Here's our XY table, and over the other side of the page we've got this graph. First question, describe the graph. Is it linear or non-linear? Is it rising or falling? We have a straight line graph, so the graph is linear because it's a straight line. If it's rising, this is important. If our graph is rising, we're gonna go that way, bottom left towards the top right. If it's falling, we're going the opposite way. We're going top left to bottom right. So clearly our graph looks like that. So this graph is rising. So graph is linear, graph is rising. Alright, next one. When the coordinates, write the coordinates where the line crosses the y-axis. So we start at 0, we go up our y-axis, cuts it there, halfway between 2 and 3, so it's going to be 0 on our x, 3 on our y. Does the point -3, -7 fall on the line? Remembering that that's your x and that's your y, find -3. So going across, -3 would be halfway between -2, -1, and we're going to go down. We hit the line there. That's at -3. The question was, when x is -3, is y -7? Well, no, y is -3. So does the point fall on the line? No, it does not fall on the line. When x is -4, determine the value of the y coordinate. So we're going to find -4 here, and we're going to come down, follow that line where it hits, go across. That's at -5. So determine the value of the coordinate. Y equals -5. I don't want a coordinate, I just want the value, so you can just say y equals -5. Alright, question 5. Solve the linear inequality and label on the number line. So we've got x minus 4 is less than or equal to 4. So we need to work out what x is. So to get x by itself, I'm going to move -5 over. So x is going to be less than or equal to 4. -5 goes over, becomes +5. So x is going to be less than or equal to 9. Now, I do realize I've made this using your exam, so we don't have 9 on our number line. So I'm gonna extend my number line here. 6, 7, 8, 9. That's right, I said 6, 7. I bet you're screaming your head off about that one. Anyways, we've got x is less than or equal to 9. Since we've got less than or equal to, it is a colored in circle, it is a solid circle, and it has to be less than 9, so we're gonna put our arrow going back towards our negative numbers, or back towards 0, because it has to be less than 9. Alright, equation underneath, I don't need you to put it on a number line, it's there for more practice of how to solve linear inequalities. I'm just going to do one to highlight some key elements, which is when we've got a negative. Now I said to one of my classes, because I made a mistake, and I said when we divide by a negative number we flip the inequality sign, but it's actually if we multiply or divide by a negative we flip the inequality sign. So remember that when you have to solve linear inequalities later in your exam. So let's focus on a negative example. So I've got negative 2x is less than or equal to 8. I'm gonna get x by itself by moving the negative 2 over. So I'm just gonna write that inequality sign there for the time being. We're gonna have 8 on the other side, and we're gonna divide by negative 2, because remember there is a multiply between negative 2 and x. So when multiplied by negative 2 goes over, it's going to be divided by negative 2. Now that I'm clearly dividing by negative, I'm going to flip the less than symbol over. It's going to be instead of less than or equal to, it's going to be greater than or equal to. And a positive divided negative is a negative. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So x has to be greater than or equal to negative 4. Alright, these questions, I'm just going to do the first one, and you guys can do the rest. But the basic idea is for each table of values, an equation is given above. You got to determine if the table of values is correct for that given equation above. If the equation is incorrect, explain reasoning and show full working. So here, our first equation is y equals x. That means whatever x is, y will be the same. So if x is 0, y is 0. So that first one, correct. When x is 1, y is 1. Also correct. When x is 2, y is 1, that's incorrect. So our reasoning here does not follow the equation stated where x must equal, let's flip that around actually. Should say where y must equal x value. And that's my reasoning for it. Alright, like I said, you do the next two on question 6. Let's move on to question 7. It says Emma's concert savings. It's our example. Emma wants to buy concert tickets costing $500. She already has $100 saved and earned $40 per week from babysitting. So part 1. Write an equation to show her total savings, S, after W weeks. Well, let's do that first, before we go to the other parts. Again, this is question 7. So part A, write an equation. So our equation has to be total savings after W weeks. So we need S equals W something. So her savings is going to be equal to, she's got, according to the question, $100 already saved up, so that 100 is already there, and then every week she's gonna save $40. That means every week she's gonna have more money, so it's gonna be $40 per week, so we're gonna multiply it by W. There's our equation. Part B is complete a table of values, where W equals 02468. Alright, so we need W, we need S. We need 02468. 2, 4, 6, and 8. Alright, so if we have our equation, we're going to have S equals 100 plus 40. Remember, it's the times between them, so times our first W, which is 0. 40 times 0, well, that's 0, plus 100, that's 100. So if she has 0 weeks of babysitting, she only has that 100. If we do it again, we've got 100 plus 40 times, this time 2 weeks. 40 times 2, that's 80. We're going to add the 100. 100 plus 80 is 180. So she's got 180. And then this third time, I'm going to replace 2 with 4. So let's write our equation down. This time I'm going to replace it with 4. 4 times 40 is 160. Plus 100, that's going to be equal to S. So X equals 260. So by now, you should start to see a pattern, which is we're going to add 80 each time. So then for the next two, I'm going to add 80 again, that's 340, and then add 80 again, that's 420. Done. I've created my table of values. Next, we got to graph the relationship between weeks and total savings. Alright, so we're going to graph savings over week. So I'm going to have my savings as my y-axis and weeks as my x-axis. Weeks are from 0 to 8, so 2, 4, 6, 8. And then weeks, I gotta go up to 420. Okay. So if I go 100, 200, 300, 400, and 500, and let's graph that at 0, we're at 100, and then going back at 2, we're at 180, so just below that. At 3, we're at 260, so just a little above halfway. At 6, we're at 340, correct. We're going up, there's 300, 340 is about there, and then at 8, we're at 420, so there's 400, there's 420, about there. Nice straight line produced. Draw over the line, put your line in. Obviously you'd use a ruler in your exam. I don't have a ruler because I left them at school. So there's my graph. And then if we go back to the questions, we've got. Let's graph the relationship. We've done that. So how many weeks will it take Emma to save $500? Well, from the graph, it's about here. Oh, that's pretty hard to tell what that number is. So we could use the graph and get a, reasonable answer and say that's about, or 9 would be here, that's about 8.5 weeks. But we can go one step better and use our equation. So if I go back, my equation is x equals 100 plus 40w. We want to know when she'll save 500, so s becomes 500. 100 plus 40w. To get 40w by itself, we gotta move 100 over, furthest away from x, or in this case w. So 500 is already over the equal sign, that comes first. 100 going over, well that's a positive, going over becomes a negative. That's going to be equal to 40w. 500 take 100 is 400. That equals 40 times w. To get w by itself, we got to get rid of the times 40, so we're going to move that over. So 400 comes first. Opposite of times is divide. Number we're taking over is 40. That is equal to w. So if we simplify that, you can cross, if you don't have a calculator, 0 for 0. 40 goes into 4 10 times. W equals 10. It will, can't spell, it will take Emma 10 weeks. And that's the end of that question. Again, I'm not going to do them all because this video is already close to half an hour long. So it's up to you guys to do them. I'm going to move on to question 8. Alright guys, before we move on to question 8, a quick word from our sponsor. Who's our sponsor? Glad you asked. Our sponsor is Golden Circle. They provide these lovely drinks. Today's drink of choice is Golden Pash. Great fruit drink. If you're not a fruit drinker, you should definitely try this. Get on it. And we'll be right back after this short drinks break. Alright, question 8 says, on the grid below, sketch the graph for the following linear functions using the table of values. Ta-da! And then, using the Cartesian plane below, plot all points from the table of values and sketch the line. Which is pretty straightforward, except for the fact that we've got this fraction. That's the only thing that makes it different. So let's look at what happens when you've got a fractional gradient, because that is, well, negative 2 over m, negative 2 over 5. This would be our m value. So if I do it on this piece, on this page here, let's write down our equation. Y equals negative 2 on 5 times x plus 2. That's going to be negative 2 over 5 times, well, x as a fraction, since we're multiplying fractions, would be x over 1. So I'm going to replace my first x value with 2. And then we're going to plus 2. So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 2. And if you put that into the calculator, you're gonna get an answer. What? Being 1030 on Halloween night when I should be out eating chocolates and trick-or-treating and not doing math videos. Brain is not working that well, so it's 6/5. So y equals 6/5, which is, as a decimal, 1.2. That is the long way to do it. What we also can do is just put that, replace our x with our x values here, straight from our calculator. So, if we do that on the calculator, we bring our calculator out. We've got, first we'll shine a bit more light this way. Hold on. Okay. So, if we put our equation straight in, we've got -2/5 multiplied by 4, and we're going to add 2 to that. That gives us 2/5, which as a decimal is 0.4. And then most of you usually would get rid of this whole thing. What you need to learn to do is just go back, change the 4 to 6, hit equals. Well, that's -2/5, so that's -0.4. And then we're going to go change that to an 8, -6/5, which is going to be -1.2. Alright, let's graph it. Lucky for you, I've done a great XY axis here, if I do so myself. Or maybe not for this graph. Anyways, we'll adapt. No, we're not going to adapt, that's rubbish. Let's draw up our own axis, improvising it on the fly. So I've got 2, 4, 6, and 8. Oh, that's some terrible spacings, but we're gonna ignore that one. We'll move 6 over actually. Nice. And we want to go to, we want our x values to go to 1.2 and -1.2. And we've got 0.4 as well, so I need a negative axis. That. We're starting at 0. So if I go up in 0.4, I have 0.4. I have 0.4, 0.8, 1.2, -0.4, -1.8, -1.2. My y-axis really didn't need to be that long, but hey, here we are. At 0, I don't have anything. At 2, I've got 1.2. At 4, I've got 0.4. At 6, I've got -0.4, so there. Just dump that down. And at 8, I've got -1.2. So that's my graph. There it is, I've drawn it. Off my table values, there's that one done. Alright, question, that should say 9. Question 9. Determine an equation from the graph by using the rule y equals mx plus c. Alright, here, easiest way to do it is to pick 2 easy points. I'm going to pick this point that goes through the y axis, and I'm going to pick this point here which has a nice coordinate. And then using our formula sheet, remember you get this, these are the formulas you get. We're going to use this formula here for gradient, rise over run. So m equals rise over run. So your rise is how far up it goes. So if we're at -1 and we go up to +3, this distance here will be my rise. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have a rise of 4, and our run is going to be from from 0 on our x-axis to -1 on our x-axis. So that's going to be a run of 1. Now this graph is negative, so we're going to have a negative gradient, so negative rise. I'm going to put a negative with my 4 because it is falling. We're not rising, so we're falling, and to show we're falling, it's a negative there. So going back here, rise is -4, run is 1, m equals -4. We also need our y-intercept, which is why I picked that point. It's -1. That's where it crosses the y-axis. We want our equation in the form of y equals mx plus c. So here, y equals, do I have my m? I do, it's -4, x plus, do I have a c? Yep, it's -1, and since it's negative, I'm going to put it in a bracket. Now we'll simplify that, so -4x, positive and a negative makes a negative, number is 1, so the equation for the line is -4x take 1. Alright, 3 questions to go, and I'm gonna race through them because it is nearly 11 PM and I would like to go to bed before a baby wakes up. So, first question, we're looking at solving linear worded problems, and first one is a one-step problem. It says a box of chocolate costs $8 each and you spend $56 in total. How many boxes? Well, I'm gonna let B equal number of boxes. So 8 boxes, or 8B, is gonna equal $56. To get B by itself, I'm gonna move that positive 8 over. 56 is already over the equal sign. Remember that 8, there is a multiplier in between, so when multiplied by 8 goes over, opposite multiplied is divide, number is 8, answer is $7 per box. Next question, two-step linear equation. It says it costs $10 per person to go bowling, plus $15 lane hire. If the total cost is $55, how many people went bowling? Whoops, can't see that. Since we're looking at how many people, I'm going to let P equal the number of people. Just logical, common sense, variable picking. We know that $10 per person, so 10p is needed, plus the $15 that you have to pay for lane hire fee. All that is equal to the $55 spent. Again, which one's furthest away from our variable p is what we move first. Is it 10 or 15? It's 15, so we're going to move positive 15 over. So 10p is going to be equal to 55, already there, has to come first. Positive 15 goes over, we become the opposite. Opposite of positive is negative, number is 15. We take them away and you get 40. Between 10 and p there is a multiply, so we are going to move multiplied by 10 over. That gives us p by itself. 40 is on the other side. When multiplied by 10 goes over, it becomes the opposite, which is divide 10. So the the amount of people that went bowling is 4. And then multi-step equation. We've got a pet store charges $20 for a membership and $12 for each bag of pet food. If you already spent $68 and plan to spend a total of $140, how much more bags of pet food can you buy? So let's break it down. Charges you $20 for membership. That's got to be paid. Plus $12 per bag of food. Plus $12. We're looking at pet food, so I'm going to use the variable F for food. So that's going to change. So every time, the more bags you buy, the higher this cost gets. But it already tells you you've already spent $68. Which means we're going to add $68 here. And all that is going to equal to $140. Again, collect like terms. These are like terms because they don't have a variable with them. So if I collect like terms, I'm going to write those two next to each other like that. I'm going to now add them together. So 12F plus 88 equals 140. Now again, we've got a two-step equation like before over here. Move whatever's furthest away from our variable. It's a 12 or 88. What's furthest away? Well done. It's 88, so we're going to move 88 over. That leaves 12F by itself. Over the equal sign, we have 140. When positive 88 goes over, it becomes this opposite. So opposite of positive is negative. Number is 88. 12F equals 52. That means to get F by itself, that's right, we're going to move 12 over. If you're sick of hearing this, that means good, you're understanding it. 52 is already over the equal sign. Between 12 and F, there is a multiply. When that goes over, opposite of multiplied is divide. The number is 12. So when I divide my answer, I get 4.33. Like I said to one of my grade A classes, can you have 4.33 bags of pet food, or four full bags and a third of a bag? No, you got to buy them in full bags, so we are going to round this up to 5 bags. So F equals 5 bags. That's your revision sheet. Video done. It is 43 minutes, so appreciate anyone who watches it. I know a lot of you, if I'm to be serious right now, don't really watch it, and really you should. It helps you. So for those who do, good work. Hope these videos help, and come back for more if I have you guys next year.